Hello YouTube, it has been 2 years. I am drinking the same drink that I was drinking in the video that was the Random Wisdom. I'm wearing the stripy shirt on the trail. Incidentally, I am now at the same place where I had just left in that video, and I am dating the person that I had just met that day, just moments before I made that video 12 years ago. Or 12 years ago, 2 years ago. 12 years ago. Fucking A. Freudian slips, you know, they are what they are. They're not what they aren't. My roommate's dog is very neurotic and will probably interrupt the crap out of this video, but we're going to do our best to ignore her. Sorry about that. So I've been a lot more places than I'd been when I thought that I'd been everywhere that counted except for the East Coast. I still haven't been to the East Coast. Now there's 2 dogs in this room. They're going to start fighting right next to me. And I'm going to do my best to ignore the shit out of them. If I start to get angry, please forgive me. Can you guys go? Get on. Get on. Legend. Legend. Go. Go, Legend. Go, Syndra. Go on. Go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go. All right. So, after all that, what I'd learned by the time that I was the age that I was when I wrote that, you know, at the same time of year even, you know, 24 about to be 25, now I'm 26 about to be 27, which is a terrifying year, by the way, let me tell you right now, okay, 27, pray for me. Syndra, plots then. You lay down. Let this be an exercise in patience and an example of patience. Go lay down, both of you. They're sitting for a second. Now, what I learned at that point was, you know, not to want to leave the place you are just because it's where you are, blah, 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 all that stuff, you know. But I said some things that I don't necessarily agree with now. I've learned more. You know, I know nothing then and I know nothing now, but I know a little bit less nothing than I did then. Or a little bit more nothing. Is your glass half empty or half full? So, they're gone. Yay. So, what I'd said about the school system and about how there are these forces that are trying specifically to smother out, you know, our ability to think and our experiments and our want to learn. I would like to tell you now that that's not true. That I have learned more, like I said, nothing. And I can tell you now from the perspective of the no, that that's not true. See, when you think of a chess game, there's the white team, or the white side, excuse me, there's the black side, the white pieces and the black pieces. There are 2 hands, right? There's a box and there's a board. The white side says, "Oh, I must be against the black side. They are my adversary." And the black side says, "I must defend myself against the white side. They are my adversary. They have attacked me. I must defend myself." The white side says, I must attack them. And while they're playing, you know, they are against one another. The pawns go first, but they know who stands behind them. And then the queen, who is just another pawn, ultimately defends her king. The rook defends the king. The bishop defends his position. They all defend against the adversary, who is the opposing player. Although I do think it is very interesting that the white team goes first, and I will remember that. Light goes first, then dark. But when the game is over, the actual players, the ones who actually played the game, shake hands. Or in some cases, shake their own hand because, and I think it might be a little bit more appropriate to envision, I guess, in this metaphor. Sometimes people play chess by themselves. After the game is over, and whoever won, all the pieces get put back into the box. And once they're put back into the box, they are in darkness. And there is no white, there is no black, there is no light, there is no dark, there's no beige and brown. The queen is indistinguishable from the pawn, the bishop indistinguishable from the knight, the king indistinguishable from the rook, and the board sits upon all of them. And they are underneath it together. Be carried to and fro by the one who owns the board, But isn't that amazing, by the way? That's so cool. I just remembered that part. I never thought about that. The whole thing. That's so cool. But it is only for the benefit of the entertainment of the ones who own the game that the pieces exist at all, that white exists at all, that black exists at all, and there is no adversary. Every piece on that board is the same as every other piece on that board, and the only piece that is truly against another piece is the one that refuses to step foot upon it. It says in this in the Hunger Games, if you remember the Hunger Games, President Snow, who is this bad guy, this horrible dude, he set up the whole thing, blah, 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 the Hunger Games, so evil. President Snow, at the end of it, when it was time for him to give up to Katniss Everdeen, when he saw finally the victor against himself coming into power, the one that would end the cycle, he stepped back. And it was the resistance and the leader of the resistance, the heart and soul of the, of the rebellion force that sought to keep the evil flowing, keep the evil going. It's hard probably to keep up with me. But that's okay, because right now what I'm trying to convey is a little bit more difficult to understand, and that's what I'm getting to, is that if you are of mind to understand the things that are coming out of my mouth, to keep up with me, and to keep patience, and to remain invested in this message that I'm trying to convey, then you will hear it. But if you're not dedicated to it, if you're not awake enough to hear it, if you're not, vibrant within yourself enough to resonate with it, then you won't hear it, and you will not be a part of this video with me. By the same token, if a student is incapable of observing that high school experience, then contract-based education it is for him. The whole reason that we exist in the system that we exist in today is to eliminate the things that scared us when we were children. And unless one is a boogeyman to the children, then they will agree with what I just said. It doesn't matter who you are, what country you're from, whose children you sit, whose children you are. When you were a child, if you were touched by a boogeyman, then you will not want another child to experience what you had endured. And that's what the whole world knows. Every fucking person that is an adult in the world is aware of this truth. And they are either the boogeyman or they are the parent that protects the child from what's behind the door. Does that make sense? So keeping that in mind, I now refer to another truth in our universe. And that is that when one has a wound, before that wound can be purged from their system, when one has a wound and that wound becomes infected, at first, oftentimes, and in any case, this was my experience. I once had a wound that I allowed to heal on the surface. You know, I put some Neosporin on it, or yeah, I put some Neosporin on it, put a Band-Aid on it, and called it good. And then I let it dry out, and the surface healed. You know, the surface wound healed, but an infection was still brewing underneath my skin, and that infection got very bad. It became, you know, almost like a type of cellulitis. When that wound wouldn't heal on its own, I had to cut it open and lance it myself. And in order to draw the infection out, I had to pour salt in it, and that hurt more than the initial wound did. You know, it was more of an intrusive, burning, angry force than had been even the wound, the you know, railroad spike or freaking, you know, side of a building edge that had done it to begin with. I don't remember what it was. And every day I had to pour salt on that wound in order to get that infection to come up from deep within my tissue to the surface. And when it came up finally to the surface, it was hideous. It was so ugly. But I knew this time not to put a Band-Aid on it because of what had happened before. I knew this time also not to let it go, not to let it dry, not to put anything on it, just to keep putting that salt on it. And it hurt, and it was ugly, and it got uglier and uglier. And the pus, you know, finally was all right on the surface of my skin, and I was able to remove it. So that when the wound healed, not this time with Neosporin, but with honey and garlic. When the wound healed, it healed for good. And the skin was tougher than it had been before. I know once again that took a long time for me to explain. I know once again that, you know, it was a little frazzled for you. But that was wisdom. He who has ears, let him hear. You know, if you got it, if you can pick up what I'm laying down, you pick up what I'm laying down. If not, I will say that I am drinking something that says organic, island fruit flavor, Rockstar. I'm not endorsing it. Well, actually, you know what? Fuck that shit. I am going to endorse this fucking Rockstar right now because you know what? It's delicious. I don't agree with the whole organic bullshit. I used to. I was all up on that bitch, but you know what? God bless them for being able to fucking make that profit. Fucking smoke them while you got them, you know?